Well, it's the time of year for a wee bit of celebrating of all things Irish. I've had a very busy week, so I'm just getting to record this show at the last minute. We've covered a fair bit of history and culture in the last couple of shows, so maybe I should vary the theme a bit today. It often occurs to me how incomprehensible our way of talking must sound to most outsiders. Maybe if you have some Irish background, then at least some phrases might be familiar to you. For instance, a week ago a friend mentioned having had some Swedish people over visiting when his wife came out with, "Throw your eye along that there and see if it's straight." Apparently the Swedes looked at one another with no idea of what she was saying. To be honest, I find it fairly amazing that strangers can understand us at all. It's not as if we're being deliberately difficult. In fact, most Irishmen probably have a built-in need to communicate, to want you to understand them. They will be likely to phrase it, "Do you understand me now?" which probably doesn't help. Take, "Would you hold your wisht," for example, literally meaning hold your breath, or "Would you be quiet?" Now, you could possibly have known that one from the song "There Was an Old Woman from Wexford Town." If you're behaving like a bit of an idiot now, somebody might tell you to have a wee tit or a wit now. And if that doesn't do it, you might be told to catch yourself on. If somebody asks you, "How's she cuttin' now, boys?" would you understand them? Maybe you would if they said, "How yous doing there, lads?" The answers could possibly be a mite hard to grasp too. "Och, I'm bravely or "I'm doing rightly, so am." More than likely would answer, "Och, I'm dead on, you know." If you were referring to somebody who'd recently been ill, you might be heard to say, "Och, he's powerful failed altogether, so he is." If you were talking about yourself and you'd been badly, you might say, "I'm as weak as water, so am. I'm not worth tuppence at the moment," or "I'm not worth 3 halfpence," which is even worse, obviously. If you were short of a bob or two, especially if somebody's asking you to sub them, to lend them a pound or two, you might say, "Listen, I haven't 3 halfpence myself to rub together, so I haven't." A great deal of our time is spent in having a wee bit of crack. It's a way of putting your day in, isn't it? If you're later home than expected from the pub or some other event, you can always report, "Actually, the crack was grand," or even, "A crack was 90, so it was." If it was crowded, you would say, "One place was hive in the night," or "It was packed to the gills." If you're raring to go, it means you're anxious to be off somewhere. And if a woman is dressed up to go out for the night, she might be all dolled up to the nines. On the other hand, someone who never makes any effort to tidy themselves up could be described as through other as they come, or as rough as purty oaten, which is actually a mixture of potatoes and oatmeal. If he's rude as well, he might be described as an ignorant sort of a gaunch, and if he's mean with his money, he wouldn't give you daylight, so he wouldn't, or that fella wouldn't give you the time of day. If someone is a bit greedy, or an awkward person to deal with, you might say, "I'd rather have that buddy a week as a fortnight." If he's a big fella, you could say, "If he was chocolate, it'd be some eating." Many years ago, I spent a few weeks doing some building work on a friend's farm near Belfast. Every day his mother would feed you up to the gills with spuds and stuff at lunchtime. Then when you went back to work, the dad would come over to see how you were getting on, and he'd say the same thing every time. "You know, a full sack doesn't bend." If you're listening to a conversation that you know is in the Irish language, which you don't understand, you could always say, "Ní higgum, I don't understand." If it's in English, but you genuinely can't follow what they're saying, you could say, "I have no idea what you're blathering on about." If you want to be a little bit more forceful, not to mention risky, you could say, "Are you talking to me or chewing a brick?" Not that I'd recommend that one, you understand.